guys, and welcome back to the WTFarm Girl channel. We are doing the cabin project. Cabin, office, tiny house, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be all those things.
Hey guys, sorry for my lack of my normal introduction. I've been sick with COVID all weekend. I'm doing okay, but it's just a little bit hard to talk. So we are going to be doing the lighting in the cabin plus adding a shelf on the back. A lot of you guys were curious about what was going to happen with the rear of the cabin. Well, you are going to find out and watch it all come together. So here we go.
Alright, so I have two board pieces that were left over from the walls that I'm actually going to put up there. I already went through and I pre-drilled the holes. So we've got a hole there, and then we have double holes right here. Those are actually for supports right there that I might stick underneath there. Number one. Okay, so that's actually holding a lot better than I assumed it would.
As I put this second board up there, I realized I'm running into another issue. Because the boards are not all exactly the same length, the two ends of the boards are not matching up. So I'm gonna have to end up shimming it to get both sides to fit.
Alright, so these are the three that we're going to be using. These are shorter ends. Like this. Alright, so here's what we came up with the final supports for the shelf. This is what I'm going with. I found these trim pieces, and then we're simply going to sandwich it on the back, like so. Like that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screw from behind into this piece of wood. And then once I have this whole unit, this is then going to get nailed into the wood here, but the bottom part right down here is going to get screwed. So let's go ahead and get this first one assembled and see how it goes up. All right, let's go hold this up there and see if it'll work. All I have to do is paint the butt ends of these, and they should be good to go. So that is great. That is a great fit. All right, so to finish prepping this out, I'm gonna put a pilot hole at the bottom for my last screw. I'm gonna have to see if I can get the nail gun on the sides to make sure I can nail up both ends pretty good. And I'm gonna go through and sand this all over and then put some linseed oil on it. And then of course paint the butt end. So this will be completely finished before it goes up there. All right, here it is. Eric was complaining about my drop edge right there, my shiplap side. He thought I should just cut that off, but so this, I think the shelf is about 6.5 inches wide, I believe. Standard shelf size is about 10 to 12 inches. So this guy's actually pretty narrow, and I did not want to go any more narrow. So I left the shiplap side there. What I did instead is I just took some quarter round. I had lots of quarter round. I just stained it and I put that up there right across that gap where the two boards come together. Now, in case you're wondering why the two boards aren't sitting square together, well, these boards are a nightmare to try to cut. I mean, granted, our chop saw probably definitely needs a new blade, and that would have been a lot better for cutting. But when you cut, they tend to slide and twist and move, and it's just hard to get a straight cut. So At whatever point that board had been cut, it obviously wasn't straight. So then I cut this board to size. It didn't fit. Anyway, guys, take a good look, because when you see this again, it is not going to look like this. So we're gonna do a quick scan through of everything so you can see what it looks like, because after this, we're really gonna get serious. I mean, it's serious now, but you know what I mean.
So, what you may or may not have known is that I've been driving around with a sofa in the back of my car for the last 6 months or so. No joke, you can see it sitting right there. It's proven interesting trying to haul groceries and kids around, but it barely squeezed itself in there. And now it's time to pull her out. Unfortunately, she may not fit through the doorway. And now I'm having panic attacks thinking that maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Yeah. So we worked to pull it out, and Eric has two philosophies. The first philosophy is take the door off. And well, the sucker is heavy. This is a heavy sofa. And you can tell we're both struggling with it. Yeah, it's heavy. So, after some thoughts, we decide that maybe we can finagle it around. And then Eric decides to try to take the feet off. It's worth a shot. I mean, the feet just unscrew off anyway. See? Easy as can be. And it worked. We managed to stuff the sofa through. But I didn't get it on video. But here it is, in all of its glory.
Okay, so right here we have the mounting plate. This came off the back of the light. Every light has some sort of mounting plate. This one's circular, sometimes they're crisscross, sometimes they're just a bracket. So we're gonna pull these through the center, like so. And pull these down, and then this just sits right on here. And we really wanna center it with our two screws right here.
So if you've never screwed into a terminal box for a light terminal, I'm going to warn you, they are a real trick to try to put screws into. I didn't know until after the fact, of course Eric tells me afterwards, that it works a little easier if you pre-screw them first. So you screw your screws into them first and then you pull them back out. And that should make it a little easier. Although I'm not sure how much easier it actually made it, it was still quite a trick getting those things in, and I about had a heart attack.
If you're recycling lights, make sure the ends of your wire are still good and not burned out. These might need to be replaced a little bit. Just cut off and restripped. So this is what it looks like. It's a little mangled, so we'll restrip it. Alright, so now we have a much cleaner tip. That's going to be a lot better to put in with our main wires right here. So it's basically color coded. Now, not all wiring setups have an actual grounding wire. If yours does not have a grounding wire, then you would take your grounding wire on your light and you would actually connect it to this green ground right here. It has to be connected somewhere. But since we actually have our own grounding wire, you don't need to connect it to that right there. Yep, I have to pull it off and replace the screws on there with something different and hope that I have something that will work. I don't think I have anything that size, so I'm gonna have to go to the store. All right, I have a confession to make. Yeah, it took me like 2 hours to install two lights, but I think I have it down. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like, and then I'm gonna show you how we do the next ones. Hopefully it won't take me 2 more hours. You ready? Here's what it looks like. Yeah, so this one, as much as I tried to get those blue things straight in the walls, once you start adding spray foam behind it, it pushes them cockeyed. So those blue light terminals that I had in the walls that were installed, they ended up being skewed, which makes it a pain in the butt to put your plates in and have the screws line up. This one barely hit. This one hit fine. So we really want to shake this to make sure it's going to stay put, because that is heavy. That's, I don't know, maybe 8 pounds. You do not want that sucker falling because that's going to break. This one I had the same issue, same identical issue, but this side was shorter instead of that side. I don't think you're really going to notice if that's crooked once I get a sofa and everything else in here. But yeah, I really, really like those lights. We pulled these out of that $2 million house. I really didn't know where this would go in any sort of house we ended up building. I thought they were awesome looking lights, but I didn't think I really wanted them in my house. So all the lights that we have in here are lights that I don't think I would use in a house build. The exception being those. Okay, so we have our ends all stripped. These are actually finer wires than our other ones. These are 18 gauge, so they're tiny. All right, so we are going to take our little bracket off the back. This one doesn't have a flat plate. This one actually has a bracket. Okay, to take the bracket off, you're just gonna unscrew the front knobs, and that should do it. I'm gonna lose all of them. There's a bracket. Woo-hoo-hoo. So if we do it like this, we should be able to line it up in a test, like so. The biggest thing I learned doing this is always test fit your lights 100 times before you start screwing everything together, because it's a lot of screwing. No comments. Okay, so as you can see on all of these, they're all pretty much installed with my wire sleeves, either vertical or horizontal. And I didn't really think much about these because most of the plates I looked at are adjustable. These plates are not adjustable. So that means that if I were to put this in the one spot you can put it, right here, guess what? My light is now going to be like this. Not what I was hoping for. Man, this has been the biggest pain in my butt trying to do the lights. But this is not going to work anywhere on this. Here's another bracket that I have that supposedly went to the other light. This hopefully, yep, it will fit in here. So I'm going to demo this in here and see. Then after you get it twisted on, make sure to pull your smaller wires real good and solid to make sure they're in there. If they fall out, redo it. Because remember, you're going to be stuffing it in here, and that's a good chance that they're going to pop out in your attempt to stuff it. Okay, now we have everything wired up here. So now we can go through, slide our mounting bracket back down as far as we can go. We're going to have our light dangling carefully, and then we are going to attempt to reinstall the right way. So these screws were going in so hard that even a flathead was starting to strip them out. Not a good sign. Okay, so a lot of issues with batteries going down. A lot of issues getting this installed. The lights, I did not expect to take this long. 3 days. Oh, so frustrating. time for the ladder for the loft. A lot of you guys had asked what I'm doing for the loft. I've actually gone through a couple different ideas. The new fad these days are blanket ladders, where people take old wooden ladders and drape blankets over them. I'm not quite understanding that whole idea, but I mean, I guess it's a great way to store blankets that if you want them to gather dust. Anyway, so that's what this guy was selling, was blanket ladders. These are old ladders like this that were taken apart. So this one we measured, and the width is about right, and the length is about right. So the only problem is it's covered in paint. And as cool as that might be for a country cabin, this is a little bit more of an ornate cabin. So I don't want to paint over it. I don't want it to look like an ugly painted ladder. So I'm going to go through and see if we can just retake the beauty back of this original ladder and make it look amazing in the cabin. So for the larger chunks, I'm just going to scrape it off with a putty knife. Oh, this was $25. Is that a good deal or a bad deal? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I have a feeling this is literally going to take me hours of work just to get this wood propped. Now this is actually filing it so buttery smooth. I just have, I don't even know what grit this is, but we've got like tons of these kicking around. This is an old used one, so it's not very abrasive. And this is actually working like a charm on this wood. Step is there's just a little bit of fuzzing that was occurring, so I am going to go through with a high grade steel wool and sand it down with that just to make it a little bit more buttery smooth, and then I have to figure out if I'm going to stain it or just straight up clear coat it. Here's what we have after the stain. You can barely see it actually. You wouldn't even know that I had stained it unless you flip the ladder over, then you can see the stain difference. Yep. So here you can see, obviously we've got like the more definitive sander marks in here, lighter, darker. And then right here you can see the edge of the stain. See, this is stained and this isn't. So it hasn't really done much except given it a little bit of an aged appearance. You can see right back here, the back of the spokes, I didn't really hit a whole lot. I wasn't really concerned about the back. So overall, it just makes it look like an aged ladder. So that's kind of what that stain is doing, is just giving it an aged appearance. I think what I really should have done is mixed it with the linseed oil like I did the cabin ceiling. And that would have given it just a little bit more warmth to it. Because right now it just looks really, really aged. But we're going to put the clear coat on it. And I think that'll help bring out some more of the yellows and the reds. Just give it a little bit more bite. So we're going to go ahead and put that on and hope that it looks pretty good. All right, here it is. You can see right here how the wood grain was definitely coming through. This wood has been rain soaked and dried in the sun, rain soaked and dried in the sun so many times that it's just really, really weathered wood. So, yeah, I don't think you'll get any splinters going up and down it. So pretty much the satin coat locked down some of the wood fibers. So there, that is the ladder. And it definitely looks like it's just naturally aged, I think. You can't really tell that it's been sanded and stained and distressed. I mean, maybe you could, but that's good. That's okay. Now I have to test this in the loft and see how tall it is because I don't even know. Has not been tested yet in the loft. So that's gonna be next.